Any Fain Leiden, any Fain Leiden. Please welcome to the stage.
I don't even have to do anything. Okay, it wasn't my plan to tell a story, but Steph's in emergency mode, and she really believes I have a story to tell, and what better person knows you have a story to tell than a storyteller? So I said, fine. Fine. So here I am. My story is true and is happening to me even at this moment, and it's lovey-dovey. It's not funny. Well, maybe there's some funny moments, but not really at the moment. One day I realized I was going to turn 30 years old, and it kind of hit me, like maybe it's hit any of you right before you turn 30. You realize, oh, really, 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 and you like feel it. All right? So I realized that. And then I remembered also that I've always had a dream to go to France, so I decided to go to France. It was a lot more involved than that because it was 6 months that I went, and I'm self-employed, so I had to save money for a little while. And I pulled it off somehow. And right before leaving, somebody gave me a copy of Eat, Pray, Love, which you've all heard about. And Elizabeth Gilbert just came. Maybe you do know or don't know about that. She's who wrote Eat, Pray, Love. And her book I had mixed feelings about. Part of it was like, spoiled white woman, oh poor me, I'm heartbroken. And then, well, some people agree here. And then there were a few sentences in the whole book that really helped me think about like heartbreak and how to deal with that. And I'm 30 and I've been single for 3.5 to 4 years, and my last relationship like hit me more than a ton of bricks, like 5 trains at one time. And all my friends helped me deal with that, but only I can get to the other side of it, hence going to France by myself with no money and not a particular plan. But I survived. I'm here to tell the story, so I survived this. So I'm reading Eat, Pray, Love, and I'm in Paris, and I'm like, this is so cliche. And I knew I was following my dream, but God, it's really cliche. And I get to the end of it, and by the end, she's like found herself, and she's been to yoga retreats, and she's fallen in love with a Brazilian guy. Yay, it's great. And she has another book deal and all this stuff. But the part that really bothered me was she was there to find herself, and then the guy, and she meets a guy, and this guy like completes her. That bothered me, right? Yeah. And I'm like, I am bound and determined that will not happen to me. Okay? And I already knew that I was a hard enough to crack. All right? I already knew I was a hard person to date. I'm like, yeah, no, like kind of jumpy and don't totally trust or whatever. That's a whole nother story that we're not getting into. Okay? So I go through France and, eat baguettes and drink wine and the things you do, And I happen to also be a banjo player. And so I had my banjo, and I met all kinds of great people just from playing music. And I played traditional Appalachian music, so people that play traditional French music were like, yay! It's near the end of my trip, and I start to fall in love with the diatonic accordion, which is a mixed blessing, just like playing the banjo is a mixed blessing. But I was really into it. I never imagined or expected to be interested in the accordion, the diatonic accordion. The diatonic accordion is complicated in that when you push one button, you get a different note in than out. So you have to kind of love it to go through with that, because it's not intuitive, okay? So I'm like, all right, I'm kind of dealing with a different kind of challenge. I'm opening to, I don't know, I didn't imagine myself or see myself certain ways, all right? And that's what happens when you travel, is you bust through that without even realizing. But this is all near the end of my trip. And so you can probably guess the rest. Okay, as I was very stubbornly and bound and determined to meet no male and no partner, not end up with any Frenchman, because all my friends thought, Annie Fain's going to go to France, she's going to come home with a man. I was like, I'm not. But I did meet this guy. His name was Chabot. And he's tall, and he has a nice smile, and he has dark hair, of course, and he speaks French, of course, that helps. I mean, come on. And he happens to play Appalachian old-time music. I think he's the only person my age, 30, who plays old-time mountain music in all of France, and I just happened to meet him. Okay? His parents raise sheep, my parents raise sheep. He has a sister named Ameline. I have a sister named Emmeline. I mean, this is spooky. Okay? His brother plays diatonic accordion, and I'm learning, you know? I mean, the list goes on. And I'm like, but he was not available. So mixed with my natural hesitancy and my determination to not become Elizabeth Gilbert and be cliche as all hell, I just stayed away from him respectfully, and he stayed away from me respectfully because he was respecting the relationship he was in. Okay? Time passes. And then I played for a couple of months in the band he played in because they didn't have a banjo player. We got to play festivals, and we were in each other's space for months, you know, on and off for like 4 months, long enough to get a feeling for someone and their personality and what their friends are like and just how you feel about somebody's general, I mean, we're in Asheville, you could say aura, but you know what I'm saying. And so I got a really good feeling with him. I really trusted that. But he wasn't available. And he's in France, and I'm going home because I love living in Asheville. And I'm a mountain girl. I'm from Murphy, North Carolina. It's where I belong. I can't imagine playing the accordion. I can't imagine living in France. I can't imagine really learning French for like real, you know? Okay, and so just to rush through that part, we're down to the last day. It's the last festival. I'm getting ready to go back to Paris. And he says, we should talk. We clearly have feelings for each other. And so we have this conversation. And I leave thinking, well, that's good, we talked, but I don't expect anything else from it. I get back to the United States a little bit heartbroken because my adventure's over, and I had this feeling that I don't usually have because I'm stubborn, which was, wow, he really got under my skin. Wow, I was in this country, and I had to go home. I think I might have found my guy, and I got to go home a long ways away, okay? So I go home, and we're emailing each other, and I'm thinking, little miss, I don't believe this can be true. He's not going to come here. He's just saying he likes me, right? He's like, all right, what if I come in 3 months? Then, a week later, all right, I'll come in September. This is August. I'm like, oh, okay, we didn't date in France, you know? He had a girlfriend. On the outside, this story seems crazy, and I was hesitant to tell some of my friends here sitting in first rows. And I was like, believe me, he's a good guy. He really is. I have this feeling. I have a really good feeling. Okay, so they believed me, which is lucky, because he actually is a good guy. He immediately went and told his girlfriend. He told his friends. He moved out of the house. He was honest to everybody, and he's been tried and true ever since, and I really trust him. So he came to the United States, stayed with me for 3 months, came into my house, and we had never dated. And I've never lived with anyone in my life, and I am doing my own thing kind of person, right? I'm like, no, you know? But then it was great. It was like easy as pie, peach pie, cherry pie. Like, this is crazy. This has never happened to me before. So you got to pay attention to these things. His visa comes up, and it's like the end of 3 months, and I have to argue with him about leaving because he's like, oh, America, a bunch of fascists, you know, I don't want to, visas, it's bullshit. But he doesn't speak that way because he's French. So I am me, so I'm speaking me through him, you know what I'm saying. I wish I could imitate him, but I can't. It's too difficult. So we have this argument we call an immigration lawyer. They say, go away and visit your family and then come back. And you'll have 3 more months. Because he was very clear, I do not want to leave you, I don't want to leave you, I don't want to leave you. And I'm thinking, I'm a mix between some romantic mixed with practical. And I'm like, if this is going to last more than 3 months, you have to go away, or we can't be together at all, because the American government is serious about this stuff. He's like, yeah, whatever. Well, he got to really realize how serious the American government is. In that, he went away, tried to come back, they stopped him. I was in the Atlanta airport. I waited for 2 hours at arrivals for him, and he didn't come. And then I get a phone call on my cell phone, and it's the customs. And they had him, and they interviewed him, and they interviewed me. And I waited 6 hours in total and talked to him on the phone, and we cried together and what's going to happen. And I never really realized, like, this feeling of something out there that's bigger and more powerful than you having ultimate control in that moment in your relationship. You know, this guy in customs, it was his power saying yes or no, whether we get to continue our relationship, basically. So he calls, they say, you know, I got a bad guy, I don't know what's going to happen. Some more hours go by, and I'm pacing and pacing, watching everyone from arrivals meet their person. Okay? So he calls and he says, you know, they said no, and I don't even get to see you, and I have to go home. He's crying. And later I find out that he had kind of bonded with the customs guy and got a lot of advice from him. And the customs guy is like, if you want to be with this girl, you got to get your shit together, and you got to get this, and you got to get this visa. And I'm telling you no, but think of this as the day your life changed. And Giraud really responded to that. He went to France, got a car, got a phone, found a place to live, got work. Okay? So I'm like, well, this means we won't see each other for 6 months. Unless I go now to see him. So I did, having not much money. My parents got, and my brother and sister bought half of my plane ticket as my Christmas present, which made me cry, and then everybody starts to cry. My dad starts to cry, which means everybody's crying. I'm like, oh, I can't handle this, you know. And it turns out also that my dad called customs at 3 in the morning and tried to vouch for Giraud and say he's a guest of our family, and the guy said no. So I go and spend the month of January with him, and now we have to be apart for 4 months. But that month was great, and it was like through that hardship, it was like everything got fast forwarded, but in a good way. I mean, I could date somebody from North Georgia for years and be like, guy's all right, you know? But this is like, you gotta know, you like the guy or you don't like the guy, you know? So we decided that we do, and we did, okay? So I get there, and we had a great month together. And he gives me the transcript of the interview with the customs guy. Do you understand what I'm saying to you? Are you a citizen of France? Yes, yes, yes. And he said, is there an emergency in the United States? That is why you have to go there. And I'm reading this transcript, and I'm in France with him. He never told me this. This is me reading it. He's just standing there washing French dishes or something. And I'm like reading it, and I read this line when it says, is there an emergency? And it says, and I could hear Giraud's voice, because he's like this, he is serious and honest, and he's like there. If he's there, he's there. And it just said, love is an emergency.